Welcome, my Talk Shop women, and anyone else who is watching this video on YouTube publicly. I have a private membership where I help women in their journey of inner healing, or as you can say, holing yourself. And this is a video where I thought about how do I answer this question that a member submitted. I thought about it and reflected for a while, and I just thought that there's so much substance and help and even freedom available through this one video that I want to make it into a teaching. I'll take up as much time as I need because I know my members are watching this, and I decided anyone else who is in the public wants to know more about healing because I'm so passionate about this topic as a licensed counselor turned coach. I just want this to be available to be the encouragement or the tool that someone uses for their own healing journey to up-level their experience and experience the abundant life, as I like to call it. So I'm going to read this question that we have a member who asked it. I'm going to read all of it because every thought that she wrote down is, it speaks to her heart, and it's not just her heart. I've been through this. I've had questions. People who I talk to, there's always this tinge of fear sometimes, or hesitancy when we start to go into our inner healing journey, when we start to go into our brain, our wiring, our patterns, our psyche. So here's the question. This member says, I love everything you teach, but I will say that always diving into myself, my emotions, how am I feeling? It seems a little bit egocentric sometimes. What does it mean to die to oneself and live for Christ? Maybe we're not supposed to be focused on ourselves so much. I left all of my ministries recently and started focusing on my inner healing because I was so burnt out. I want to serve out of overflow and love, but I wonder if that's even possible. Is there anyone that serves out of overflow? Is there really anyone who's so content with the situation of their heart that they have so much to give? Or am I just being so focused on myself? Am I ever going to feel so fulfilled inside that serving is the result of that? This culture is already all about me, myself, and I sometimes wonder if doing all this inner work is equivalent to focusing on me, myself, and I. Maybe we're not supposed to be so hyper-focused on how you're feeling all the time. I feel like bringing up all this stuff from my childhood is making me see my parents in a bad light, but despite all their flaws, there was so much good that they did do. Will I be able to get a clearer picture once I do more healing work? Maybe I'm just in the thick of it all, and so it's all so confusing. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I do see the flip side of it too. I know that if I break off my generational cycles patterns, everyone in my circle will benefit from that, but the thoughts I wrote out earlier can't help but come up sometimes. This is an amazing question. There's absolutely no judgment. I know this individual member. She's phenomenal in the work that she's done. And yet I understand, even from the help that I've received in the coaching and mentorship in my own life, sometimes I also wonder, what's enough? Am I just totally different? Why aren't more people on board? What's going on? And I think that sometimes that happens with people who I'd consider as pioneers. Anyone who did anything in the Bible, oftentimes they were the first to do it. And it's very hard sometimes for people to just come along. We have Noah who built the ark. People didn't even know what rain was back then, and he's building this massive ship. People thought he was crazy, and then, the family that he saved who onboarded on this craft, watercraft, later they multiplied, and, humanity continued, if you believe that Bible story. There's so many different Bible stories where, people did something new. They maybe set up a church. They created some kind of ministry. They're creative, and it always takes one person. And I think that the first time anyone executes anything new, there's always going to be some kind of backlash. And I kind of attribute that to this concept of religion, where sometimes what was good and fresh in the moment, as we know the story in the Old Testament called manna, when Moses was out with the Israelites and they were complaining and they want food. Moses was a pioneer delivering people into freedom, literally, metaphorically, also symbolically, but they were complaining for food, and their instruction was grab manna, take manna. but only fill up enough for that day, and tomorrow you will fill up new manna, new food. And anyone who hoarded, it was, they had actually maggots the next day when they woke up and looked at their container or whatever. And so I remember even this pastor Bill Johnson talked about, like, yesterday's fresh food, fresh revelation is going to be today's religion, today's maggot-filled food, whether it's expired or irrelevant or doesn't serve its purpose anymore. And so we always have to go in and experience fresh, if I could say, presence, revelation from God. And so we're in this society, at least biblically speaking, we hear these things like, "Ooh, we're gonna do, we want to do kingdom," and or what was the thing, a couple of years ago. There's always some kind of new revelation. And with the new, there's always this hesitancy of the old. Wait, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm making this up? What if I'm too focused on myself? Like, oh, this feels good. This feels right. But if I'm going to be the only one, I'm afraid to go and venture out on my own. In fact, even the Israelites that were going into the new promised land, they, out of the million people that were reported that left Egypt, the only people who were even allowed to go into the land of Canaan, which is the promised land, there were like 5 people, 5 spies. Actually, 5 spies were sent out, and out of that, it was like 2 men, Caleb and I think someone else, who saw this new land, and they were like, "Yep, it's for us." They saw the giants, they saw the threats, and yet they said, "Yep, this is land. There's milk, honey, just like God said, it's ours." Whereas the other people who looked at it, even the other spies, which I'd consider somewhat more, elite people who went and scoped out the land, even they were like very nervous with what they saw. They're like, "Oh, whoa, yeah, we saw honey and milk. Yeah, we saw that abundant life. But did you not see the giants there? We were like grasshoppers." And the Bible says very firmly that God said, these people, like, you can't even put them into this land, like, enough that they can't even get Egypt and those strongholds and patterns and old ways out of their psyche, patterns, behaviors, emotions. They can't even get that out of the way without like dreaming of going back to their bondage and slavery. But then, like, when we did dispatch a couple people to even scope out this new promised land that I'm setting to, more than half of the group got scared because they only saw the giants. And God's like, this is my rendition of the story, but like, God's probably thinking, like, did you not think that I probably had a plan through all of this? That if I told you you were going to have this land, you were going to defeat it and it was going to work out? And even when the couple people who did make it into the promised land, God didn't even give all of that to them. In fact, it was like conquering in segments, counties, provinces. There are like certain boundaries. As soon as they'd conquer this land, territory, domain, then they were ready to conquer the next. As soon as they, established their ways or eradicated out of some of the, if I could say, the giants or the issues, right, at that land, only then, right, in steps and segments, as they were ready, they were able to conquer more. And so someone might be like, "Okay, Elena, that's a cool story. Yeah, we know that story, but how on earth does that even relate to what we're talking about?" And let me just say this, in my opinion, these concepts like inner healing and, some people like psychology, some people don't. This feminine, masculine principles, like every time you're going to hear something that sounds new, remember there's going to be some resistance, especially if you come from a background where your religion is somewhat, or your belief system, and sometimes I say religion, but if your belief system has certain ways of thinking where it's very like either going to hell or not, you better be on the right path, or you are going to be damned and doomed. Oh my goodness, don't be cursed. Oh my goodness, that's the devil, that's Satan, that's demon. What are you opening up yourself to? When you're in that, of course, there's going to be some fear in starting to step out into the new land. Okay? And so I'm going to really try to break this down, and I'm not going to be in a rush because I believe, I don't care how long this takes today, I really do believe that whoever needs to hear what they need to hear and have the peace, they will. The Bible talks a lot about, your soul prospering. Sometimes I'll hear these verses like, "No longer I, but Christ in me," and lay down your life and what's this verse? And live for Christ and all these different things. And I think sometimes we have these like blanket statements and we get in a little bit of trouble when we go into certain extremes, because I can also say, well, there's plenty of Bible verses that talks about your soul prospering. There's plenty of things in the Bible reference to you, like you're laying down by green pastures and you are being renewed, and we are called to be like a new creation, and we're called to have value. Like, so how do we balance all of this out? And, I have quite a bit of notes. We'll see how I kind of maybe somewhat jump around a little bit. But let me just start with why I am passionate about this. The only reason I'm sitting here and even creating this video and posting it publicly is because of how radically my life has been transformed when I truly started to believe that Christ is my Savior and He loves me. And so I want to experience this abundant life. I had a good life, good Christian family. I did a lot, I went to school, got my psychology degree, got a counseling degree, helped people. In service, church, I loved serving. I played the piano. I loved our home groups. I did youth. I was in choirs. I was in Sunday school. Like everything in church and outside of church, I was very involved and my life was wonderful. And there was one area in my life where I just could not really understand, why am I struggling to attract the love that I desire, which for me was a relationship that would be long-term, basically marriage. There were guys that I dated, or excuse me, that's not even true. There were guys that I probably would kind of talk to, but there was nothing ever really official. I could hardly even call them real dates. I didn't even come from a background, in my opinion, culturally speaking, where I don't even know if I honestly even knew how to date. I don't think I had proper mentorship. I come from somewhat of a conservative background, and I remember especially a while ago, if you talk to a guy, it was like, oh my goodness, you're getting married to him. That did not help at all. And I remember, like, for anyone who's watched my YouTube videos, and especially my Talk Shop girls, then I lived a good life. Like, I did good. I've had journals where I'd be like, wow, this is God speaking to me, and here are my prayers, and here are my prayers answered, and here's miracles. Like, I had seen enough God to totally believe God, but I did not understand why I was not seeing the very specific desires of my heart come true. And for me, I was experiencing love and marriage and all of that. And I remember there was a woman that I'd listen to her on YouTube all the time. I loved everything she talked about. Every time I'd listen to her, like, my heart would just beat in excitement. Like, oh my goodness, I loved everything that she posted. And she had this video once about marriage and love and the divine union and all these things I love. And I just remember saying, I want this. I want this. Like, I believe I'm going to have this kingdom marriage that I desire, this marriage that glorifies God. And I remember I wanted to just compliment her in one of her videos and say, thank you for what you do. Your work is so amazing. Please don't stop. And I was very surprised to find out that she actually offered coaching services. And something just finally moved in me. I said, I'm going to reach out and ask for help. Because I can't deny, like, I'm feeling stuck. I'm 29 years old. I want a family. I want love. What am I doing? Like, what's going on? But the thing is, like, if I'm being very truthful, like, that was somewhere in my subconscious. I was too afraid to even really, really admit it out loud. And so there are a couple areas in my life regarding church, work, community, clients, business, all this professional stuff. I was like, I have some questions. They're just things about my identity I'm trying to figure out, like, what's right? What are my boundaries? Can I say yes to this or no? I had just enough questions that I said, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to start to connect with her, and maybe she can provide some kind of mentorship or coaching, because what I'm experiencing is not helpful at all. In fact, God bless so many people in my community and I love them so much, but I think for me, this is just my account of my journey. I'd start to get frustrated when I'd ask for mentorship and help, and most of my responses were given to me where you just need to pray more, seek God's will, and everything will fall together. And like, And I did, you know, and I'm like 29. I'm like, I have a lot of success in a lot of areas, but I can't deny, like, I need some help in some other areas. Like, I need mentorship, I need wisdom, I need solutions, I need someone to talk to me about my specific situations in a way where I'm just not getting this help elsewhere. I'm gonna fast forward, but this woman completely radically changed my life within, I'm not even kidding, within like almost immediately within the next couple weeks, I met the man who I ended up marrying. I have no doubt that this was a remarkable key person in my life, but I will say this, as much as she opened up this like feminine heart, feminine experience in me, she really helped me to continue to deepen my relationship with God. And a lot of it started with internal work, inner work. And you know what the funny, ironic part is, coming from a counseling background, I was used to always giving and helping, but I had not yet really, I've received mentorship and different help, but I had never really sat back as, if I could say, the client or student in life. And I see this so many times with women, especially like just like me, very successful, driven, sometimes the oldest kid in the family, very responsible, they do a lot. And I've noticed this theme where it's really hard for some of us women, as desperately as we desire to be loved and cherished and honored and experience love and all these things, it's hard for us to ask for help because we are in these positions where we're always giving. We're always mentoring. We're always the responsible. We're always the team captains and leaders of everything. And it's kind of challenging to feel like you're in this vulnerable position to actually receive help, to admit you're struggling with something, to, you know, even recognize, like, you know, am I wrong in this? Am I doing it wrong? Like, oh my goodness, I'm helping so many people, and there takes a lot of, like, it takes a lot of humility to really turn inwardly and do some of the work that you need on yourself. And I was, you know, had my own fears, you know, being wrong or not being good enough, or, you know, someone tells me, okay, don't do this, go do that, and that's uncomfortable. Basically, like, I didn't even ask for help yet, or I was in the process, and I was already noticing, whoa, things are coming up, nervousness, like, what is this? Why, what am I scared? What am I scared I'm gonna find out? Why is this uncomfortable? And I started to get very curious. And as I started to work through these layers and peel through them, or from my ego to fear issues to insecurities to questions, like, this is the inner work that continues to help me experience this abundant life that I desire. As I like to say, behind every trigger, wound, traumatic experience, or just an uncomfortable emotion, behind all of this challenging stuff that we as women grapple through, on the other side of it is almost always growth, relief, bliss, maturity. I've yet to experience in my own life or helping clients something horrific that we find out when we start to do the inner work. There's always a cleanup that happens. So let me kind of back up before I go too far in my story. Let's start to kind of define or even challenge some of these concepts. I'm doing this with love. Let's turn the light on. I don't think it's a coincidence. My name, Yelena, actually means the light. And so darkness flees when we turn the light. So anytime I start to hear anything that's like fear-based, in fact, oftentimes I'll hear people say this, or even I have clients who tell me, like, oh, I told someone I'm doing coaching with you, and they're like, what? You should stay away from psychology or psychologist or counselor or whatever. Like, they're just gonna put you into confusion and something's gonna happen to you. And my point is, let's expose that already. What is that? Is that encouragement? Is that love? The Bible says, like, perfect love casts out all fear. The Bible talks about these verses such as the spirit, you know, where there is freedom, that's where the spirit is. And so already when people are saying certain things that's like stirring up fear, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen if I open up and share something? Do you not believe that you have enough discernment that if something strange was coming up, you could ask or paused or asked for it to be, cleaned up? Like, what do you really think is going to happen when you start to share your heart with someone, your desires? And so already, like when people come into this, actually the same client, you know who you are, you're a very special woman. But even she was like, well, I just had some inner healing that I went through, some sozo work. This was in the beginning when she just started to talk to me. And she said, but I'm worried. Does me getting extra support, such as counseling, mean that I'm not faithful and that all my results and healing will be gone? And I said, if that's your perspective, then sure, because we live out of our self-fulfilling prophecies. We literally create the realities that we believe in. I said, however, you can also believe, wow, you've done sozo, you've done other work, you've had other form of support, and now you want to go even deeper in your freedom and identity. And this is another form of support, mentorship, counsel. The Bible talks about there's wisdom and counsel. In fact, all the kings and queens I've ever heard of depended on a counsel circle. If you believe that's going to enhance your relationship with Christ in your life, then it will. And you will find that. And if it's not with me, then it's with someone else. So it's like when we start to break off other people's fear tactics, or even like I think of sometimes, like, this is my opinion, this like the Slavic people who I love so much, we come from like a Soviet Union background, and there are a lot of like psychology, school education, inner work, counseling. For the longest time, it was just associated with like demonic stuff. Oh, you're not faithful. Oh, you're letting in demons. And so I honestly believe there's a tinge of even that when people are worried about receiving help. So let's say, like, let's already kind of organize this. Number one, being vulnerable and receiving help, that's vulnerable. That's hard. Okay. I'm speaking to women mostly in this video. You opening up our heart, like I said, my desires. Oh my goodness, are you going to expose where I did wrong, where I'm bad? It already takes a lot of humility, aka courage, to even say, okay, I need help. Like, I clearly don't have this figured out. Why am I stuck? I want to be a good Christian, but why is this hard? Why do I get mad? The other thing is, like, again, what family background do you come from, culturally speaking? Could be society, religion, family, doesn't matter. What's your guys' opinion or the stronghold of, experiencing inner work, help, psychology, mentorship? Because there's so many things to unpack even in that, and I don't want to spend too much time with that topic, but it's like even this concept of being paid or paying someone to help you. Sometimes people think it's an anti-Christian for someone to serve you. I couldn't disagree more. In fact, I come from a background where I would have done everything for free, except for what happens when my bills aren't paid and I'm completely, like exhausted and burnt out. And I personally have no problem paying someone and honoring someone with my finances if they're giving me their time, their wisdom, their experience, their higher levels of education and mentorship. It's a trade-off of resources. And I have no problem compensating someone so that they continue to be in a position of power and authority or help or whatever. Because, and you can take sports and you can be a really good sports player and still hire a coach who can help you go further. In fact, I think it's a lot of wisdom to invest in yourself in terms of if you have the ability to continue to go to these higher levels, instead of you thinking, I got this, I have it all on my own, I can figure it out. Which, again, this loop that you guys can see, it goes back into, in my opinion, this fear of vulnerability. In fact, I kind of reached a point in my life, maybe it'll change later, where I have a hard time really looking at anyone with complete, how do I say this? Trust, maybe? If they have not been in any way like the student or client, basically the receiver of help. If I see someone who's occupied many, many positions in life, leadership, that's wonderful, but if they don't have anyone above them to keep them accountable, to call them out, to help them process triggers, to identify patterns, I don't really know if I trust people who rely on themselves and their own efforts all the time. So that's kind of the precursor to all of that, but let's kind of get into some of like the details and specifics of these questions. Let's see. Okay, me, myself, and I. This is the concern of this society. Okay, so if I'm diving into my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, how is that not kind of egocentric? And my question is, well, what do you, like, if you're looking at examining your thoughts and questions, for what purpose? If you are looking at it to heal, to alleviate pain and stress, if you're identifying like, oh, I'm feeling irritated, I'm feeling jealous, I'm resentful, congratulations that you can even identify and be aware of that, and you are processing it out. Whether you just need to sit with a certain emotion, let's say grief overwhelms your heart, instead of us pretending it's not there as women and shoving or suppressing and being disconnected from our feminine heart and design, is an invitation to like go in and be with that. Because if I'm only tuning into me, myself, and I, and it's a position of just being self-absorbed, self-saturated, selfishly focused, and I just want to be entitled, and I want my husband to do this or the way I want it right now, and that's what I'm feeling. That's not the purpose of us focusing inside. It's to clean it up, because we are if we're Christ-led, and it says no longer I but Christ. What about that verse? Yeah, well, what are the fruit of Christ? What are the fruit of the Spirit? Peace, joy, love, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, goodness. And we are resolving anything. We're cleaning up, removing old wounds, pain, stories, triggers, emotions, so that Christ, the Spirit, the kingdom, that freedom can reside in us. I don't think like the purpose of us to focus on ourselves, like I said, is to stay stuck. I think there is power in awareness. In fact, we call it emotional intelligence, for you to be able to even be connected to your body and recognize, oh, why am I distressed? Why am I snappy? Why am I angry? Why am I in shutdown mode? Why am I yelling? Like, we're not just overwhelming ourselves with that. We're being attuned what's there. We're not making it up. Like, you not being connected to that or ignoring or denying is just that. That's a lie. It's denial. It doesn't mean you're perfectly healed. It means you're not even connected with your heart, and you're probably just in that work mode. And so we are cleaning up to experience this abundant life. We are cleaning up old any distressing experiences, things in our psyche, memories. I'm gonna kind of continue a little bit. Can we really serve out of overflow? That's a very good question. Let me back up. It's really hard for me to talk about this without talking about the feminine. So I do believe that even though if you are a woman, you are created by Christ as the feminine being, the feminine vessel. You are a feminine design. And I think a lot of the Bible has these verses, and we tend to put these blanket statements on men and women, but men and women, they're different. Their brains are different. Their hormones are different. Biologically, they're different. Brain structure, they're different. We have differences. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a man and I can do everything as a man. In fact, when I see women over functioning, they might have almost like a male-like feel, but they are oftentimes just in this like tractor, overexerted, go, get things done mode. And a lot of times they're very exhausted and tired and burnt out. And no, it doesn't mean if you're in your feminine, you are lazy or useless, because women do a lot. Like, they're very capable, they raise children, they have homes, they could be business people, like they do a lot. But let's go a little bit into the nuances of our design. Biologically speaking, men have value for doing physical stuff, activities, getting things done, working. Women have inherent value just by being, right? Even reproductively, we are valuable because we're able to create, produce, multiply. And so, when we have this verse, even like carry your cross or live for Christ, well, through your design. So what does that mean? If women, females, are a lot more, supposed to be at least, attuned to their body, more inward focused, we tend to be more reflective, we feel things, then I believe that is what we're working through. And when we're paying attention to what's going on, oh, why am I jealous? Why am I feeling insecure? Why am I not able to, let's say, celebrate my husband or serve my family without feeling, again, angry or resentful, or why can't I process these emotions? I think that is the cross that we are carrying. I don't think it has very much to do for the feminine design. I don't think it's about, pick up your cross and get involved in 100 services and carry a bunch of things with you on your shoulders. No, I think like back then, in this verse, I believe Jesus was speaking to, as a man, to a lot of men. Hold on, making sure. So, sorry, someone just tried to call me. But anyways, whereas for them, it could be a lot of like, pick up your cross and work and get things done and provide and protect, a lot of that physical doing, being, activity, tasks. Again, nothing wrong with women doing and being busy and serving. That's wonderful. That's amazing. That's not the problem. But it's what expense are we overexerting, overextending, exhausted? The Bible talks about women being fruitful and multiplying, okay? I believe in that verse. I believe in rightful submission with your husband. There's a lot of just health and rest and well-being that just looks totally different than from a man's journey. So, I've seen this a lot. A lot of people get so involved in doing these ministries. And I remember talking with a friend, and she was telling me, she's like, I remember I was on a mission trip one time, and I thought I was doing so good, and I was spreading the gospel, and I had no idea, me just like telling them about the Bible and regurgitating all these things that we learned growing up in Sunday school, how we were taught. Like, I was just regurgitating a lot of things I was learning, what I knew, but it wasn't this embodied truth. I didn't even have love to myself. I wasn't even patient with myself. I was struggling with myself in so many ways. So what was I really even giving in terms of energetics? Sure, I could have fed someone. There's nothing wrong with giving them food or whatever. But when it comes to a real ministry in life and serving people and Christ, that's all about the kingdom and our heart space before we can give that to other people. And Jesus said that the top commandments were, number one, love your God, all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, that type of commitment. And the other Bible verse was, the second highest commandment was, love others as yourself. And people have a hard time understanding this, but to love other people, to be present, to be patient, to be kind, you can't magically give those qualities or give that fruit. It's called the fruit of the Spirit, unless those seeds are already in you. Does that make sense? It's like, I work with young moms. Sometimes they're like, I just get triggered by my kid, and I'm having a hard time being patient or loving, or I don't know what to do with their emotions because I don't even know what to do with my emotions. You see these patterns? And the more we're able to attune and be kind and respect the feminine design in us in relationship with Christ, right? I am created in Christ's image as the feminine, as the female, and being in right relationship with that. That's important. Yeah, so kind of jumping around a little bit, but her question about, I'm doing some work healing with both parents and stuff, that's amazing. And I'm going to say this because I've been through so much of this healing work and I've guided so many clients. You're going to experience so many emotions, yes, in the thick of it. And a lot of times we look at things like when we're healing, we have these like secondary emotions such as anger, and that's one layer of healing, and that's one of the easiest emotions oftentimes to experience. But a lot of times as we go deeper and as the feminine, we descend, we go deeper and deeper, whereas the male, arises into the kingship and maturity. But when we are going deeper, then we are starting to really go into the heart of things. whether it's sadness or grief, or we felt unheard or unseen. And a lot of these things, by the way, let me go back to this pioneer concept. If years ago we were in survival mode and we were in, like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you know what that is, you know, like biologically, are we fed, are we protected, do we have food, you know, and when generations climb up this ladder, we're kind of in a world right now where a lot of us are able to focus on a lot of these like emotional needs and attune. Am I loved? Am I safe? I remember one of my coach said that we are only evolved biologically, like this new part of our brain in terms of like identity and value. Those tend to be even more newer concepts, but sure, that's what we're kind of like getting into. And so we are processing like, hey, was I heard? Did I felt safe? Was I loved? Did I matter? Do I feel treasured? You know, all these different things. That is what we're experiencing. And like I said, I've done this, I've helped clients, and the more triggers we go through, the more old stories, old wounds we heal. You know, I'm not enough, I don't matter, I'm not safe. The more we work through that, you'd be surprised how much our body, our emotions, our psyche, our nervous system starts to stabilize, and we start to feel more secure and healed. And we're not going to be as triggered. Like, I had a client recently say, like, I've been working, it's been hard, I feel like I've been descending into hell literally every time I process this bitterness and resentment and anger in regards to my parents about things, but I've been through it. Like, I'm trying to heal, I'm trying to let go, to not be affected, to not be triggered. I'm pouring myself with that love and validation that Christ has for me in regards to me being a new identity, a new creation. And she's like, you know, I finally have been able to come into my family's home, and I don't get triggered as much. I'm not shut down. Of course, I'll still have my moments, I'm still working on it, but I'm not nearly affected on being like, you know, angered, or your nervous system going into fight, flight, freeze every time. I'm starting to see freedom because I'm starting to be more well nourished and resourced as a woman. My nervous system is getting stronger, and I could heal and be stable through different things. And as your nervous system, as the feminine, expands to hold more, you know, right now I'm married, I have a business, like there are certain things that I'm, you know, holding and expanding, and I have my own tendencies to sometimes want to collapse, and I'm like, nope, this is what we're working through. The more I can hold, the more I could be present, the more I can experience and receive in life. I could just go into my collapse mode and cry and have a temper tantrum, and God, you're not helping me, and that's that. Or I could just, you know, believe that and push through it and suppress it, and with anger in my heart continue to serve and do things. Or I could really go into the heart, and as the Bible says, God looks at the motivations in the heart of why we do what we do. I've seen this many times, and it's not to call anyone out, but it's like, why do people even do the services they do sometimes? Whatever work, whatever relationship, whatever, anything that they do, when you drop into your heart, when we start to find out our motives, it's surprising, and God already knows what those motives are. Are you involved in this ministry because of guilt, because you're afraid to not go to hell? Or are you involved in this ministry because it's out of love and that abundance, and it is out of overflow, and it nourishes you, and that's why you're there, right? We go away from, you know, oh, is this person going to think I'm a bad person if I'm not involved? Are they going to think I'm not Christian? And we start to like really get pure about our motives. Why do we do what we do? That is the process of this inner work, attunement, reflection. And then on the outside, we go and do the work that we do. And so we don't have to worry about like overextending and being so busy that we're never resting and healing or nourishing. And, you know, sometimes when women are completely self-abandoning and you know, putting their heart offline, and they are just, what's the word? Yeah, self-abandoning, I guess, depleting themselves from resources, and they're not emotionally, mentally, physically, because your physical body will 100% express that stress. I just don't understand, who does that really even glorify? You know, I think there's sometimes this like martyr, or almost like a little bit of a victim story, that sometimes if we're not careful, like we're not trying to die for Christ through overexhaustion. I think you're gonna have more power and potency by being a little bit more, maybe more nourished, and really putting yourself in environment, settings, work, services, working with clients. I mean, I'm preaching to myself first all the time. If you're more aligned with your values and in relationship with Christ and who you believe you are, what you need to do, I still think you're gonna be more powerful. Versus us having religion. Oh, we have to get involved. Everyone has to do things. Stop focusing on yourself. Do. Then you have to ask yourself, like, is this like hierarchy kind of blanket statement that has been taught in regards to religion? This is what we're used to? Or is this my revelation with Christ? And it might take you a lot more courage to kind of do your own thing and not fall into the voices of other people. Especially when, again, the tactics are, some people were, I remember people talking to me like, wow, you're so talented, you're so this, you're so great at all these different skills, you have these talents, why aren't you involved in all these different things? When I started to pull back and start to like restore my heart, really get into more of a nourished, healed way, which by the way, since then my life has completely changed in a wonderful way. And I'd get like nervous, like, oh, maybe I should be involved in 50 services, maybe, and it's not about being involved in 50 services or not. That's not the point. It goes back to what's the heart. Like, is it because God is calling me to go and be involved in this specific service, or it's because I am talented, I must go? Okay, I'm gonna encourage women to start to like really be real with that. I don't know, I don't believe that that's really what glorifies God. Or are you going there because someone manipulated, or you felt really pulled, or your people pleasing tactics are coming up, or you finally set up a boundary and now you collapsed? Again, like, why are we looking on the inside? So that when you make your decisions, you are making them out of love, regardless of what you do. I saw a woman in one of our group, the mentorship class I'm in, she said, I fostered a lot, but recently, like, there's just been a lot of grief and challenges coming up, and my brother died, and something with the fostering didn't work out, and she's like, I just need to close it up for a bit, and I'm so used to doing good, always having my home open, but I just need to pause and relax and heal and grieve. And to be honest, I just don't know if I can continue to have my house wide open like this. I just don't know if that's my life anymore. And her even having permission to even think like that, not forcing herself to do things where she feels so depleted. So let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, I mean, what's your truth? Is your truth that you are a feminine being? Is your truth that if Christ lives in you, he knows the design, and you are aware that you are created in the image of Christ, and you don't have to completely sacrifice your mental, emotional, physical well-being because it's some holy duty and obligation because, you read this verse and that's just how you see it? There has to be some kind of like discernment or a vetting system that's, again, congruent with your feminine design. How can you offload certain tasks? Which tasks do you get involved? It doesn't even matter if it's at home. There are plenty of times where I asked my husband for help. Yeah, so I really do believe that because of the fundamental differences between men and women, how we carry the cross, I just look at it as very different. And so that's kind of hopefully I kind of started to explain some of this. It all goes back to motives. I don't care if you're doing things, not doing things. It goes back to, are you doing things out of love and freedom? And let me tell you, like, doing this inner work, dying to yourself, dying to your ego, I'm still doing that, to my egoic preferences. I thought God needed to do this like this, and I have to like lay that to rest. But I identify, oh wow, where did that entitlement come from in my heart? Or it's like, oh, why didn't my husband listen to me like this? And or he should be doing this or that, or that right there. That's what I'm cleaning up in my heart. Because if I am my husband's helpmate and I am the energy of my life and my home, and out of the feminine energy, the masculine always responds to it, then it's very important for me to be like, whoa, what do I need to work on as a wife to have my heart be open, to be connected to my body and my emotions? What do I need to experience? What healing, what emotional blocks, physical blocks do I need to process through or observe or whatever to be fun, open, playful, soft, expressive, intuitive, all of that that nourishes me and my family and definitely benefits my union and connection with my man. That to me is your responsibility. It is. You know, in just the same way, I think of like menstrual cycles. You know, the women go through their uterus lines or the lining sheds, and you know, they bleed, and sometimes with emotions, heightened emotions, things come up, just like physical, like this cleansing that happens. That's how I see God created women in terms of like emotions and inner work. Like we're doing good, and then different things come up, layers of anger. Not even saying it's bad, but you sit with things. What's going on? Where am I feeling tired? Again, where's this resentment or bitterness? Or maybe I have something to grieve because loss happened. Like we don't just like, oh, your family member died, move on. You have to go through like feeling and being. And that's how you heal or whole. So what else am I missing? Yeah, a lot of nervous system work I talk about, you being able to hold yourself in certain frames and know when you need to rest versus when you need to go. Operating out of love, knowing when I need to apologize, who do I need to forgive. Those are those mature things in life that I still have to like crucify my flesh and do what I gotta do. But my point is, from all of this like inner work, we're not looking within to stay stuck, like especially with us as the feminine. And I even look at feminine as being even very connected to Holy Spirit in terms of intuition and speaking and guiding in that compass. The more like our outside world will always reflect and represent what's going on the inside. Because like I said, like you can't just magically expect you're gonna do something with your kid that you can't even do with your inner self or inner child or whatever phraseology, you know, vocab you want to reference here. You know, you can't just tell your husband what he needs to do and how he needs to do it, and how you come in with the right energy. And any woman who I've worked with, single or married, like we know, we all know, like we have things within us. But when we finally, like, so again, we're doing this, we're processing the triggers, we're just being or observing or noticing whatever you need to do in your journey. Again, what's the purpose? And if it's for holiness, sanctification, purity, and love, and all these Christ-like qualities, then yeah, that's how we do it as women. But us just, again, doing things because that's how we've done it, that's not relational. That's just another works-based interpretation, in my opinion. So just a reminder, when you are doing this work, like, yeah, you can be triggered, things can come up, but don't worry, you'll get through it. I'm not saying you'll be perfect in this lifetime, but you know, the more compassion and healing and love that continues to flood you as you heal, the more you'll see your parents like that, the more you'll let go, the more you can notice different things, but you're not consumed and pissed off. And it's not about seeing them in the wrong light. You're just noticing and being aware of, again, things that have always been there. Because if they hurt you for a reason, then let's learn and observe and discern. Okay, that doesn't mean we're saying we need to be mean people. We're just recognizing, okay, I see what's going on. Okay, but that doesn't determine my value, my worth, my identity. So we are valuable as women as who we are. We surrender, or become in frame with the right relationship of us and God's design for us. And it's not based off us doing things and physically picking up crosses as much as it's like the body-based work and life experience that we have. Hopefully this illuminates some kind of insight or freedom to someone where they have the courage to continue to walk with God. And just remember, fear that's not of God. Fear, confusion, none of that. Do what you need to do. And when your life starts to see literal, tangible fruit, of love and peace and freedom, then you know that you are experiencing the blessing, bliss, and abundance that you desire. So may you be blessed. If you are interested in more in-depth videos where I really go, well, this one was very like educational, but when I teach women how to process emotions, here's a trigger, here's what's going on, here's how you get attuned to your body, then join the talk shop, and I offer individual coaching for an additional fee in this membership. So again, this is a membership for women. If you are tired of just, you know, working and doing and your accomplishments, but you want to be adored, loved, cherished as, you know, as your whole self, then this is the group for you. Join the link, take the survival assessment, the maladaptive schemas assessment. These are the survival patterns you're probably stuck in. Take it, learn a little bit about that, and you'll get to start to see, you know, what are you reprogramming, so that you can truly experience the rest, the bliss, and the abundance that God has for you. So I'll talk to you later. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you later.